Like I think so many times people would just be like, logo design, $2,000, yes or no. But there wasn't the bullet point description of your process that really kind of like shows how much, why you're charging that amount, right?
Yeah, I mean, like they're not just paying for the deliverables they get at the end, it's for the whole experience you're taking them through. So you have to be
Yeah.
able to price yourself enough to lead them through that.
Did you
Yeah,
find?
and they're being heard. So
Yeah.
you're obtaining their feedback, and we are preparing revisions and iterations based on being good listeners and striking that balance between, no, that's not a good idea, and I'll tell you why as a consult, in addition to showcasing where they ought to go based on competitive analysis and trends and yeah, running all of that research, you showcasing that you are consultant on top of the design that you bring to the table. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think people who pay $10,000 for creative projects like this want yes men.
No.
They
Right.
they're coming to you to solve a creative problem.
Push back for a reason. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you do you help them search for that person better too? Because let's say you're in a pool and all you're getting are those people that want the $300 logo. How do you find, and you've changed your position, you've done all that. Now, how do you find that person, like you just said, that appreciates that dollar amount means I'm going to get an expert? How do you find them?
I like to think of this part as like a giant experiment. And I describe that a lot to our students because we're also believers that just because something works for us doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Like
Good
I'm
point.
very great at generating content. And so I booked many of my high ticket clients for content, whereas Marissa's great at in-person connections and meeting people and relationships and booking high ticket clients through that. So once you have your positioning, you have the clarity, you have the portfolio, and like you have these actual tangible things done, then it's about, okay, let's shift the focus to marketing. Let's shift the focus to experimenting and see where are our clients hanging out? Where do we need to be showing up? And how can we better connect with them and speak to them? Like for some of our students, that's LinkedIn. For some of them, it's Instagram. And for some of them, they're not even using social media hardly at all. And it's all in-person stuff.
So it's to the individual. How
Yeah,
do you
for
find?
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that probably brings out the best in you because you're using something that's very comfortable to you and might not be to somebody else. Right.
Yeah. And I think for everybody, there's always going to be a level of uncomfortability with this process, though. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
nobody wants to go to networking events unless you're like extremely extroverted. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to put
Yeah.
themselves on social media. They say, well, I don't know what to post, or I don't know what to say. I don't feel confident on camera. Like every single one of those avenues is a challenge that you have to tackle. And the more you do it, the more clarity you're going to gain and the more skill you're going to build. And then it does become normal to you.
That makes sense. Did you find that most people that when they come to you were trying to bill hourly rather than value based? Was that something you saw a lot of?
We
Yeah.
still see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your one and done like statement to get someone to say enough with maybe your hourly you work in the background, for your estimate, but what's your best pitch to go value based?
Well, I'm sure Marissa probably has something else to this, but for me, it's always sharing the story. And my story is when I was in college, sitting in class at design school, working on a project, I'm sitting here typing away, I'm finished 30 minutes in. And I look beside me, and the person beside me probably going to be working for another hour because they're slow. And I
Yeah.
was like, that means that if I'm good at what I do and I'm charging hourly, I'm going to get punished for being good at my job, for being fast. And so that was kind of my first indicator that I don't ever want to trade my time for money. Now, there are instances where it may make sense to switch to an hourly rate, but those are nuanced situations.
That's a tricky one because you hear people preach about time is money all the time, all around us. And I will admit, like Nick said, nobody has to really know how we get there theoretically in the background. But yeah, I put billable rates toward the amount of time that is probably pragmatic. And then I buffer that. And then I buffer it even more based on team members that I'm collaborating with and edits and rounds that we will undergo internally together before preparing a round of revisions for the client directly.
Mm-hmm.
So There's a lot that's considered. I know I've had my husband Jason go, well, why don't I just take care of all the admin stuff? I mean, you're putting all this time and effort into the back end part of your business, preparing estimates, running the logs for time tracking all these team members that are help supporting any given project. But no two projects are ever the freaking same. I'm like, this is not a template-based piece to my business. I can't just share with you, okay, utilize this template and run the numbers, please. That's never, ever the case. But I will say that do you go back to some former estimates that are templated, knowing the general scope that will be undergone for the next step coming, and then know how to tailor that? Like, do you do that on a regular basis? Do you find yourself doing that on a regular basis when you
you got to start
proposals?
somewhere. Yeah, you got to start at
Yeah, thank goodness
something.
for that foundation.
Yes. Need it. 1,000%. And I can even tell in the first date call, like if they're going to be a pain in the ass client.
Yeah.
And I definitely add $500 to their proposal if I know that it's going to be the type of person who maybe isn't really good at tech, and they're going to need me to take that extra time to input that stuff on their Instagram.
That gave me shivers down my spine. That's a hell no. I have one client that just
inevitably
works on his phone. He has no laptop. He has nothing. And he bridges. If I send him zip files and things, he just forwards it to whoever needs it. And it just drives me crazy sometimes. I'm like,
wow.
When you said that, I was like, yeah, those are some of those non-negotiables sometimes that you're like, but my best line I ever heard is if you're feeling that way with someone, and like you said, you add 500, this person told me to double the estimate, just double it. And that way, if it does land,
interesting,
and you might not be enjoying it, at least you have been able to kind of capitalize on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's good practice. I like that.
And some of those have turned to actually good clients down the road. I can't say like first impressions are 80% probably right, but there have been a few that were surprisingly worked out really good that we didn't get along at the beginning. But I think that's your chance to, we talked about this in the other conversation, to really show your worth, and it could change the trajectory of the partnership and the relationship now that they've seen how you work, and they can appreciate it. Those are always great finds when it comes
that's
to,
a very, very good point.